Hey everyone, welcome to today's live show with Empower Her and Cry India, powered by the Filmsters. I am your host, Sshoni Mitra, and we are diving into a very vital topic: adolescent rights and the three forces shaping them: prevention, protection, and transformation. Joining us are two extraordinary leaders, Anamara Baig, the CEO of EmpowHER India, and we have this lovely lady, Kreeanne Rabadi, who's been there with Cry for almost more than a decade, and she's the director of West of Cry, Child Rights and Youth. Two dynamic ladies who are leading with us today, and both who have dedicated their career and life to empowering adolescents and marginalized communities. A little bit about Anamara. She's got more than 15 years of experience in program implementation, donor management, and business development. And she has spearheaded transformative initiatives like SETU, which was into equipping rural adolescent girls with essential life skill education. And she also oversees programs focused on WASH and financial inclusion for women. That's a very important thing that female needs to understand, that financially they need to be independent. Before her time at EmpowHER, she spent a decade leading donor management at Pratham Education Foundation and holds a degree in political science and international relations from the University of Kent. Her passion for community empowerment drives her impact. Really, really nice to have you, Anamara. And we have Kreeanne Rabadi, Director, West at Cry, Child Rights and Youth. After earning her postgraduate diploma in early childhood care and education from Sophia College, Kreeanne began her career in market research at Orgmark. Since joining Cry way back in the 2000s, she has played a very pivotal role in resource generation, established Cry America's fundraising efforts in India also, and now she leads India's West Side as a director while overseeing the organization's people and culture initiatives. Nowadays, that's a very important thing, because mental health is another thing which is very important, and she's brilliant in it, handling people and the culture in her organization. And her commitment to driving transformative change for marginalized children and communities has been the hallmark of her career. Thank you both for joining us today, and let's begin understanding the current landscape of adolescent rights in India. Before we start, you can say a few words. Over to
Kreeanne, why
you.
don't you start?
No, I just wanted to say thank you for making me part of this discussion. And talking about adolescence is an extremely, extremely critical phase. So I'm really happy to be part of this discussion. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I echo Kreeanne's feelings as well. I think for me, that space of adolescence, the more I work in this space, I realize how critical it is. We can, a lot of the issues we have, we can sort of connect them to our experiences in the childhood, and particularly in adolescence. So I'm happy to have a conversation today which kind of sheds light on how we can sort of focus more on the space, on the rights of adolescents, and because they're the future of our country, of the world, and they are the ones who are going to sort of carry the burden of how the world shapes up. So we need to really focus on them. So yeah, I mean that's we should begin the conversation. Yeah.
So, Anamara and Kreeanne, when we speak about these rights, okay, what are the grassroots level things that one should consider, before understanding it? Because there's very less knowledge, right? And what steps can we take, to increase this awareness?
Okay. Should I go, Anamara?
Please do. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's important to first understand this whole period of adolescence is a highly sensitive one, right? That involves this transitioning from childhood to adulthood. And it's so complex that, and it manifests in all these changes in adolescence. There's simultaneous changes in physical, psychological, emotional, these behavioral changes that are happening all together. That it often perplexes adolescents and it perplexes the adult environment around these adolescents. And in the 40 years of experience, 45 that we've had with Cry at the grassroots level, we've realized that awareness levels on this phase is very, very low, right? See, adolescents don't lack proper guidance and resulting in things like low self-esteem, confusion, and often, if we remember our adolescence, it also drives this need to act out against an adult environment that just does not get them right. Families, especially families from extremely marginalized communities, they are caught in this daily struggle of life and survival. They have very little time or inclination to really understand what adolescents are going through. And then there's this widespread notion across every segment of society that adolescents are adults, right? So they are given roles, adult roles of becoming income earners, caregivers, responsibilities to be head of households. So all of this puts immense pressure on adolescents. So I would say there's a lack of awareness across all levels of society, and this is something that really, really needs to be focused on. Anamara, over to you.
Yeah. So in addition to what Kreeanne has said, which kind of paints a very good picture of the current situation or the landscape of adolescent welfare, well-being, at least in India. I mean, when you just take a step back and say that, okay, what are adolescent rights? Right? When we talk about adolescent rights, I don't think they're very different when you talk about human rights. What are our fundamental rights? So, you have whatever your basic rights, but particularly with adolescents, there is, like what Kreeanne said, there is some additional um, care that we need to take because of the the psychological and emotional changes that adolescents go through in that phase, right? So even in terms of addressing that, when nobody speaks of like psychological first aid more than anybody else, perhaps adolescents need that, right? Because there are so many different challenges that they are facing in rural parts, in lower income communities. They see violence. Sometimes they are subjected to violence. What Kreeanne mentioned about the them being seen as adults, but they really aren't. So that disproportionate amount of burden, say the household burden that goes on to them, they become caregivers of their siblings when they are, themselves children, 10, 11, 12. They're girls particularly are being pulled out of school so that they can take care. And I mean, there are many like socio economic compulsions to that. So it's not to say that, parents are wrong. Of course, it's a wrong thing, but like parents don't have any other alternative, right? So in this case, so then they have a right to some sort of a emotional support, and where the parents are not equipped to give it to them, the school is not equipped to give it to them, the community is not equipped to give
Mm.
it to them. So that area is not being addressed, and they are growing up with so many sort of complications because this area is not being addressed. So in addition, because Kreeanne has already spoken about most of the challenges that one faces, adolescents face, but this is also one critical piece which I would like to add and say that there is a huge lack of this across the board.
Yeah, Anamara has definitely touched upon that. So at Cry, what we feel is really important is to work with multiple stakeholders, and Anamara mentioned it, right? He talked about the school, with the community, local duty bearers. So for us, for Cry, we have to ensure that adolescent rights are anchored into three interconnected really levels. There's self, there's community, and system. So Anamara's spot on about it. It's not just about the adolescents, but it's about that entire ecosystem and how do we change that entire ecosystem around adolescence. So there are multiple things that we need to take to really increase awareness, right? One is, and I'm sure EmpowHER does this quite effectively, is building safe spaces for children in the form of adolescent or children's collectives, right? Can be the first step to awareness and empowerment. Then there is continuous kind of processes to enhance knowledge and information amongst adolescents. That's another critical aspect that we talk about. And then meaningfully curated agency building processes amongst adolescents, where is the implementation of life skills. So that's at the adolescent level. At the family and community, I think it's very important because, as Anamara said, right, the community there has to be a supportive in kind of ecosystem for adolescents. So that needs to be awareness generation. Behavior change processes can play an extremely important role. And finally, if you look wider in that circle, systems, right? We need to raise awareness amongst duty bearers. You know, people like teachers who play such an important role in adolescent lives. Even capacity building of panchayats, of village level committees, of district and state level functionaries. You know, you can do so many things. You can have joint collaborations, collaborative research studies. So CRI works on all these three levels. And if we have to drive change, it has to be in all these three levels. Yeah.
So you're building the trust also. That plays a very important role
Yeah.
for people to trust
It
you.
all
So how do you
hinges
do
on
that?
that.
No, Sshoni, Anamara, would you like to speak about it? Yeah,
Sure.
go ahead.
Uh, Trust building, Sohini, takes time,
Takes
especially
time.
when you're working in communities. And like I can give you the example of girls, which is even a more vulnerable, say, target group that you work with. Um, Parents are reluctant because there are security issues. It's
Financial
one of the
issues.
reasons why girls drop out, because in higher grades they have to go
Travel far.
much further out to study or to attend school. So a lot of the parents are reluctant in areas that may not be safe. um, so the I think the whole
Trying to build
the
that connect.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah,
that,
like,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
so it's
Bridging that
sorry,
gap, that
I was
knowledge
just
gap is
trying to
important.
frame my thing is that if you are someone from the outside coming in, coming into a community and saying this is
Community.
what I'm going to do, why you're an outsider, why should they believe you and why should they trust you? So it is, it's always good to trust building is always good to when you have somebody within the community, maybe who is
A senior
an
person.
influencer, to be able to endorse you, say that I know them, they've done good. That's a strong way of entry. It's not the only way, but it's effective when there is someone trusted in the community itself who can endorse you, right? If you go through the school system, sometimes the obviously the teachers are there, and then you're working within the school system, so that's a different approach. But trust takes time. Like when you have
Yeah.
to be able to demonstrate that you are here to work, you are representing them as much as you're representing their interest, as much as you're representing your own organization. And there has to be your approach has to also be that I am not here to teach you and tell you what the right way of living is.
You are
you
here to
have
share
to
knowledge and you have to understand it and
and you
make a
have
good
to
living out.
absolutely understand where they are coming from, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
and you have
that's
to listen to them. A lot of times we tend to feel that this is the right thing to do for them, and we kind of impose that. But we need to take a step back and be like, okay, let me hear what they are saying, because they probably have some very valid points and reasons why they are doing something.
As per
So
yeah.
their community and all.
for
So
their
so
communities. Yeah. So
yeah.
please, Kriyan,
No,
that's
no,
what
no,
I wanted to
Anamara,
say.
you're spot on. I think
Hold on,
the
yeah.
critical part is to make it participatory. You're here to enable, but for in order for any change to be sustainable, the
You have to
community
keep on doing
children
it.
don't-
You have to
no,
keep on doing it.
the community and children themselves need to be enabled to drive that change. So it has to be participatory. And for us, a lot of our field workers and community organizers are from the community itself. So they're very much
Yeah.
integrated in that community. They understand, the challenges that that community faces. So that goes a long way in building trust in, and furthering the work.
Yeah,
Great.
absolutely. That's true. Yeah.
I think you have already answered while we were chatting in terms of what role do education and awareness campaigns play in addressing the barriers adolescents face in accessing their rights.
I can
Um,
I can add to that though. There
you
are
I would
added,
there,
like to
you
add to
already
this
added,
as
you
well.
already
yeah, yeah.
added on the pointer. I'm
Would
sorry,
you like to
So,
we
add?
Kriyan,
have
you go
someone who's
first,
meant
and
to.
then I will add to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, just to give our audience some kind of context here, there over 250 million adolescents were not in school pre-COVID. Yeah, this is before COVID. And according to a UNICEF 2022 report, it is estimated by, I would say, 2030 that about 825 million children will not acquire the basic education and skills for their future and for future opportunities, right? So education and this learning crisis is one of the greatest global challenges that exists today. It really is significant. And if you look at where adolescents are growing up, it's such a transforming world. You have technology, you have climate change, you have conflict, and a lot of things that are reshaping society at this very, very fast pace. So, education is absolutely critical, so that adolescents become lifelong learners, right? And they can make informed decisions on how to navigate their lives. And clearly, there needs to be significant investment in the education system, because I think that all of us have seen this on the ground, right? When adolescents or when children reach the 12th standard, it is likely that there'll be a reduction in all the violations. If you talk about child marriage, you talk about child labor, you talk about trafficking. So education becomes very, very critical for them when they reach the 12th. Yeah, all of these violations are likely to reduce. So education becomes very, very critical, ensuring adolescent rights, extremely critical. Anamara, you can
Absolutely.
add.
Yes, I in the context of, you mentioned the what role awareness campaigns play in addressing the barriers and the effectiveness of them, right? So I had a view on that, and it's absolutely not data backed or but it is more being generated out of my sense and my
Own
experience over the
experience.
last couple of years. So it's just that the usefulness of awareness campaigns is it's only to a certain extent. Okay. They're important, like absolutely. I don't mean to say they're not important, but I think awareness campaigns, in absence of financial ability, okay, their effectiveness diminishes significantly, right? I'll give you a small example of that. in the context of how we work, right? So there is what we are teaching the girls and boys, say for example in menstrual hygiene, and there could be a huge a very effective well crafted campaign that maybe the government takes up in order to ensure that everybody understands, community, parents, girls, boys, everybody, what menstrual hygiene is. But I would say that there are plenty of households out there who have to decide between um, having food and then or buying a sanitary napkin. There are some households that will definitely through the campaign switch, but there are plenty others who can't switch because they just don't have um, that financial
Knowledge.
freedom.
And
No, not they have the knowledge and they want
we
to
have
do
the
this.
knowledge. Okay,
But
but
when it comes to prioritizing their expense, a lot of times they will prioritize, say, food as an example,
or we have
over
seen the or we have seen
spending
the ad.
money.
Yeah, or we have seen the ad which Akshay Kumar has been doing, that ये फूफू करने से कुछ नहीं होता है, buy a sanitary pad. So these kind
Yeah,
of
yeah. So
campaigns
these
are also
these
there.
are not to say they're not effective, but what I'm trying to say is that you also have to measure that in from a financial perspective, and these are some barriers which, despite having really good campaigns, the uptake might be limited.
Yeah, I have to agree. There are a lot of other things that you need to put in place in addition to doing campaigns. But some of the campaigns that we have done, we found fairly effective. We've just come off just at the back end of a campaign called Puri Padhai Desh Ki Bhalai, yeah, which is about higher education for girls. And the kind of impact we've seen is fairly significant. If you look at Maharashtra alone, we've covered 2,000 villages where communities have made commitments to their
Yeah,
adolescent girls. We've
yeah.
had panchayats who have made resolutions saying that all the girls in their villages, they're going to ensure that they reach the 12th grade. So there is certain amount of effectiveness of these campaigns. It can raise knowledge about adolescent rights in the realm of education, health, hygiene, protection. It can also, campaigns can also push, as I said, obviously there are limitations, but it can also push for stronger enforcement of laws that protect adolescents. It can help educate teachers, local leaders, community influencers. So there is some merit in doing, a lot of merit in doing campaigns, along with all the other possibly deeper work that you're doing in any area that we're working. So
I do
campaigns.
think it needs to be a combination of both.
Absolutely, absolutely. There are
Yeah,
multiple things that you have to do. You have to work on the household level as well as doing the
yeah,
wider campaigns, right?
That's where
So,
the community
absolutely.
helpers come in to help you
yeah,
guys reach each
yes,
house.
yes.
Lovely. So taking this forward, how do you believe that rights education can help prevent these harmful practices which is happening in the society, like early child marriage, child labor, which is a very big thing which we can see nowadays, or gender biased violence?
Gender based. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Anamara, why don't you go
One,
first?
one, one pointer. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I think that like we've already discussed, it has to be a combination between building that awareness as well as giving adolescents very specific tools to know how to act on that awareness. So when we're talking about rights, right? Their adolescent rights. So they have a right to you know, ownership of their body in terms of deciding how they would you know, when they would want to have children, whether or not they want to be you know, after marriage you can say no to your husband if you you know, in terms of
Well,
like yeah, sex, etc., which generally I think the notion is that you don't have that right? So those are things which are also important rights with respect to gender-based violence and so on. But just giving them the saying that okay, these are your rights, and you can have a child when you want to, etc., or take a stand even with your parents that no, I want to study till 12th standard. You cannot get me married when I am 16 years old. Things like that. You may be able to give them the awareness about that. They know that this is the case, but they live in a patriarch, like the structure is very very patriarchal. So how do you also, apart from doing that, you need to build their agency as well, in order for them to be able to stand up to the parents also and say, or to their husband and say, okay, no, this is not something I want, right? So that's where I think life skills comes in, and it's very handy because we are talking about life skills is a huge area, right? You have socio emotional skills, you have more cognitive thinking skills, like like problem solving, decision making, goal setting for yourself. What do you questioning, what do I want out of my life? A lot of times that question is never asked to them, so it never even crosses their mind that, oh, I can actually do something with my life. I'm
It
talking
becomes a
about
regular
girls
thing for them.
particularly.
It becomes a
I'm
regular thing
talking
for them.
about
Wake up in the
girls.
morning, take the kids to the
So
school, cook food,
so my
you know.
view is that life skills is something we need to really think about very, very urgently across the board. So we are obviously, it's gaining traction, no doubt. It is, but we are still, organizations are doing it in parts, in pockets, and we have, 250 million adolescents, or how many ever. So I mean, I think there has to be some collective action in the next 10 years to really integrate it into
Reach
the
everyone.
learning,
Every program,
the
every program.
learning, and it should become a program, a school program which
School
starts
program
from
with the
grade
education.
1. It should
Mm,
start from grade 1, and
mm,
they slowly build it up, because again, even life skills, it's not a 1-2 year thing, right? Like
agreed.
we are doing a short kind of term program, and um, we want to be able to stay with those children for much longer, if we can, right? In order to be able to actually see that long-term impact. So, but yeah, my view is that life skills is going to play a huge role if we want to be able to move from awareness to action.
I completely agree, Anamara. A life skills program is a very integral part of any rights education that we would do, especially with adolescents. But what we've seen on the ground is when rights education is done holistically, and as I said, what life skills is one component. It really is a preventative force when it comes to the evils of child marriage, child trafficking, child labor. Um, so first and foremost, it increases awareness of these practices which are legal and harmful, right? And we have to understand that some of these practices, like say child marriage, is rooted in culture, right? For
Hmm.
many years, this has been going on. And so it becomes very difficult for adolescents to actually challenge it. How do you challenge something that has been so widespread in your community for so many years, right? So when you are imparting rights education, and giving information and knowledge about the ill effects of such harmful practices, that gives adolescents some tools to reject it. Yeah, so that's one aspect of rights education. Then rights education also involves giving knowledge to adolescents about available support services that might exist in the community. Yeah, child protection services, legal aid. It also helps adolescents recognize warning signs of exploitation and situation. Sometimes you just don't know what you're getting into, right? So adolescents, they with rights education can begin to recognize, hey, this is not right for me. This is going to harm me, right?
That
Um,
distinction is
and I think
important.
rights education, not just for adolescents themselves, is it's extremely to build awareness and sensitization, as we've been speaking about, for communities and other stakeholders as well, so that they can also reflect on these are harmful practices and not good for the girls in our community. So it's important to not only do things with adolescents themselves, but with the larger ecosystem. So rights education is critical, and as Anamara said, life skills programs and done in a comprehensive way, which is the point she also made, is also extremely valuable.
It's interesting you say that, Kriyan. I was just sort of reflecting on when I was reflecting on some of the questions, and I wrote this that there is certain power in understanding one's personal rights, right?
Yes,
So
absolutely.
I mean, there is a choice to be made whether to exercise the right or not. And they may lack agency, but if they don't know at all, you're taking away the
Agreed.
choice. You're
Yes.
taking away the choice. So I feel like even if from that point of view, it's very powerful to at least let them know that these are your rights.
Agreed, agreed. Yeah, it is at the end of the day, what choices you make to navigate your life. And information and knowledge is extremely one of the
Yeah,
big steps in enabling that. Yes.
yeah, yeah.
So just off the record, I'm just saying something. All the kids, whether it's metro, tier one, tier two, or tier three, everybody's there on the phone. The short, snackable videos that you can see. So I would really request both of you guys to create something snackable, and because as you mentioned, like you have started, sharing this knowledge all across India, but you cannot reach into the interiors. So, but in the interiors, we have internet where they can see the videos. So, if something can be, made on these rights, taking
Sure.
simpler, concepts that will actually help them,
Yeah,
then
Shoni, you're right.
it will be more.
Technology, we need to use technology now, and we do
Yeah,
use
little bit,
technology
little
now
bit,
to
yeah.
Yeah,
reach children. Yes.
yeah.
So, how do you integrate the voices of adolescents themselves when we speak about advocating their efforts to protect their rights?
Uh, Anamara, should I go, or would
No,
you
no,
like
please
to?
go ahead. Please go ahead.
Um, you know, we find this is extremely critical because adults can, think for adolescents, act for adolescents, but if you don't integrate the voices of adolescents itself, change can be extremely limited. Yeah, you need to ensure that because adolescent and through collectives, in fact, can really play a very powerful role themselves, right? The voices of their own voices, they need to be able to champion. It's not just about others speaking from them, because otherwise it becomes pure tokenism. Yeah. So that we need to build platforms where adolescents can dialogue with their world. Yeah. Whether it's their communities, their parents. Like we have this amazing program in Bandra, in fact, in Mumbai, where the focus of the program is to build dialogue and connection between adolescent girls and their mothers and their brothers, because they feel they have they play such a critical role in the adolescent lives, and adolescents should be able to speak out about what their needs are, what they want to do with their lives, right? So creating these platforms and dialogues is extremely critical, right? Because and they have agency. I think Anamara would agree with me. When you work with adolescents, you can see they have a voice. So it's important to integrate it in whatever work that you are doing with the children or adolescents. It's important for them to have a voice in whatever change they want to drive.
And
Yeah.
you both are doing brilliant thing, channelizing everything, the perfect knowledge, not just making them go everywhere, but giving the correct path. That's very important.
Yeah. And one other thing I have noticed is if you get one champion in say in a community who has taken that initiative and has done something, can demonstrate the impact to the others, then slowly it becomes easier to convince the parents to support that, whether it is some sort of a platform where adolescent voices can be heard, whether it is letting them step out of the community. I mean, I've seen this with vocational training, for example, where there is it may not they may not be adolescents but young adults, right? They're close enough. You see one girl from a very remote village go to for vocational training to some center, and then she gets placed in a job somewhere and starts earning, sends money back home. You'll find many girls from that community suddenly following that girl in her footsteps, and that kind of entire world opens up for them. So I think it's really about having these champions everywhere, building those champions, and then others champion around them,
So
and
they are like
that's
this.
also a good way.
Yeah.
They're
So they
like
are like
leaders.
Mm, yeah,
so they are like this transformative force who are the change makers.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. That's
yeah,
what they
yeah,
become.
yeah. We've got hundreds of collectives of adolescents across the country in all our programs, and these girls are, for instance, so these adolescents are stopping child marriage. They are encouraging, they're going to speak to parents. If parents are going to pull their peer out of school,
Children,
they're actually going to speak to parents and saying, no, we want our friend to be, continue
yeah,
their
yeah,
education. So they
yeah,
become a real driving force for change in their communities if you involve them in the processes in themselves. Over
yes.
to you, Shoini. I think we've covered this.
Oh, okay. What advice would you give to these young people, who want to become advocates for their rights and the rights of their peers, as you mentioned? And that was the last thing that you mentioned. But what is that advice which you would be giving it to them?
Anamara, do you want to take it or should
Go
I?
ahead.
I'm
It's
sorry.
very heavy.
Yeah. Uh, I think for one, believe in yourself, right? We have seen the power of young people in transforming societies. If you look at all these rallies that are going around across the world, so many young people are
On the
are
street.
voicing what they believe is right, right? So one is believe in yourself. The other one that I would say to young people is access the right information and knowledge. You getting bombarded with so much of knowledge, access the right information and knowledge. The third thing I would say is identify local issues that you are passionate about or you can get behind, right? And then drive change around it. The fourth thing I would say, collaborate with your communities, collaborate with others, collaborate with leaders and government stakeholders and everything, because collaboration is extremely critical. And what we talked about earlier, finally develop leadership skills. I think one of the things that our life skills programs, I'm sure both our organization do, is develop leadership skills. If these seem to be the right ingredients for you to I'm sure, I hope I haven't missed anything, but these are some of the things that young people can do to actually make a difference.
And also the power of
Okay.
networking plays the vital role over
Yes,
here.
Yeah.
absolutely. Networking,
Yeah.
collaborating, yes it does, yes it does.
Yeah.
Anamaya?
So Kreeanne has covered mostly everything, but one
Correct.
thing I would like to add, and it might be wishful thinking, but I would want to tell all the adolescents to question everything. There are so many
Oops,
Okay.
we lost her.
She was okay. So we'll get her back.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there
she's
she is.
back. She's back. Yeah. Can you repeat it? Yeah.
so many societal norms that we follow without questioning. In addition to that, it's also our entire um, social structure in India, particularly, is built to not question. And this is not uh, specifically only in the lower income communities, rural, etc. Everywhere.
Everywhere in
It
the
is,
metro cities also. Yeah.
um, I think there is this even like for example teachers, you there's a sense of reverence and you put them on a pedestal you cannot question, like you say in western countries, and that gets kind of it percolates down and then it becomes part of your character. So if you're able to sort of push back at a younger age, I think you're going to be able to question and be hopefully be able to unlearn a lot of things which are not necessarily good for you. So yeah, that would be my
That's a good point.
message to
Question
them.
everything. Yeah, good
Yeah.
point, Anamara.
So any other
Kreeanne,
pointers?
you're not audible.
No, she's
Oh, I
audible.
think, yeah, no, no, I think I am.
Oh,
Some network
Yes,
it's
issues.
me
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
she's audible. So any other point? No, that's okay. So any other point do you think we have forgot to cover?
No, I
Because
think
I mean, quite enough.
I think we've covered.
Can you
Thank you
hear
for
me?
those really insightful questions, Sohini. I
Okay.
think we've
I
covered
can't uh
everything.
I can't hear you both, so I think we're probably wrapping up, right?
Yeah, we are wrapping up.
Okay.
Yeah, we are wrapping up. You can see my
Yeah.
thumbs up right now. So thank you both. You
Sorry
guys are
for all
amazing.
the technical glitches and yeah.
It happens. It happens. So we are in a digital age.
But
Everything
no webinar is complete without
with
technical
technical
glitches. So
glitches.
this
Yes,
today it was
yes,
my turn.
Yeah.
yes, yes.
So thanks
Thank
to
you so much.
Kreeanne and Anamara. These insights were really, really inspiring. And I would also request people who are watching us, to all our listeners, and please, if you have any questions, you can write it. Even after we go live, once the session is recorded and posted, you can also reach out to Anamara and Kreeanne. If you want to make a change in the society, you should reach out to them and discuss more in terms of how you can also help the adolescent girls, not just the girls, I would say the boys also. Even they need certain, knowledge in going, taking the right path, and also respecting women in this society and making the society heard. Thanks a lot, and let's continue to be advocates for a change in our communities. Thank you for joining us. Until next time, take care.
Thank you, Sohini. Thank you, Anamara. Bye.